If you're like the rest of us, you're already counting down until Friday already. But if you had to count down just until Thursday, would it make a big change in your life? Well, a new study out of the UK discovered several benefits to reducing the work week from 5 days to 4. And most companies that tried it want to keep it. Joining us to break down what a 4-day work week could mean for you and the feasibility of the shift is Dr. Robert Bruno, professor of labor and employment relations at the University of Illinois. Dr. Bruno, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be on your show.
So let me ask you this. This UK study that kind of set this all in motion, at least for us, showed it was a big success, the 4-day work week over in the UK. What are they doing right? What are the key headlines here that could maybe make the best argument for those of us who want to make a pitch to our boss?
Sure. Well, what they're doing right is what a lot of people in a lot of places are doing right. What they're finding is that workers, when they have a shorter work week and some reduced hours, actually are happier. They're more satisfied. They're more efficient. Productivity goes up. The people that supervise and manage workplaces prefer a 4-day work week and a shorter number of hours. And the business remains very competitive. Therefore, there doesn't appear to be really anyone who is worse off as a result of a 4-day work week and perhaps something less than a 40-hour work week.
So what's the hang up?
Yeah, what's the hang up? I think some habit, some history. We're stuck in this industrial mode that really Henry Ford got us hooked on back in the 1930s, and we flirted with fewer hours, and we've looked at a shorter work week, but backed off. We haven't done enough, maybe experimentation. We haven't been bold enough. But all of the data says that if you do it, people will like it, and others will be attracted to it.
I always wonder if this is going to be a political issue at some point down the road, but I guess corporations, companies, employers have to make this decision for themselves and not have the government kind of mandate it. But how many hours a day or a week does a person really have to work to cover the cost of their employment? Could we do it in 5 hours, for example, and still provide value for our employer?
Well, I think that's a great question, and that's a question we really haven't examined much. We've just taken it for granted that, well, 8 hours is what you've got to put in. But there is plenty of research that suggests maybe after 5 hours, maybe after 6 hours, depending on the work you do, that you've really hit your peak and you've more than paid for yourself, and you have provided the revenue and the wealth and the value that your employer needs. So we don't know the exact answer to that, but I'm inclined to believe it's less than the 8 hours that we've settled into.
So there are likely some types of jobs that would be able to transition to this much more quickly. Would this end up disproportionately working for white-collar jobs over blue-collar jobs? What is the data showing us on that?
Well, the pilot studies were a mix in the UK, and we're seeing it worked out, and I don't see any innate reason why you couldn't modify that work week for all workers in all industries, particularly when the benefits are so great across the board.
So folks who are watching this morning, Dr. Bruno, and they say, this is something I'm really interested in. I want to see how I can transition this from watching it on television or on a stream to my actual employer. What's the best first step for folks who say, you know what, I want to try to get this thing in motion?
Right. Well, it would be great if you're in a workplace, frankly, where you have a good collaborative relationship with the employer, or perhaps it's the employer who is interested in doing this, and have a conversation with your employees, maybe survey employees. Frankly, the surveys that we're looking at that we see show a strong preference for the 4-day work week, and not just by employees, again, by managers also. That would be the first place to start. I think you might also talk to your representatives about what could the government do to help incentivize employers to at least run a pilot study.
And for members of unions, talking to your union representation about bringing this to the bargaining table and all of that. Dr. Bruno, really appreciate your time. That's a really eye-opening conversation. We could talk about it for hours, but I'm glad we at least got a couple minutes to do it. Dr. Robert Bruno is the professor of labor and employment relations at the University of Illinois. Thanks a lot.